Here's a text question from the 402. I'm wondering if the Big Ten just knows Notre Dame will not join, but because of possible stipulations that USC and UCLA put on the Big Ten, if they did, is that why they're not taking Oregon and Washington, possibly other Pac-12 teams? One of the things I responded to was, I think it's pretty clear that USC said, hey, we'll do this, and the Big Ten has some clout in this as well. Of course they do. We want to do this, but we want to keep Oregon and Washington out of your conference, our conference, the Big Ten, so that we don't have anybody in our area north of us who can come in and say, hey, we're a part of the Big Ten.
It wouldn't surprise me if that's a desire, but ultimately, again, it's about how much power you have to them. I'm sure when Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Missouri moved to the Big 12 at different points, they were doing it thinking that they would be away from the abusive, feeling they had from Texas all those years. And, money
how'd
talks.
that work out?
How's it work out? Texas in that league now. So, I'm sure that if Oregon and Washington don't get to join the Pac-12, that UCLA or the Big Ten, that UCLA and USC will rejoice in that, because then you can't say like, hey, this is the Southern California Conference, and you're going to get to play here and all that. Like if you can recruit Southern California, and they'll still do it, and they'll get players out of there. But if playing a lot of games in Southern California is a big deal, then they won't. I mean, those players that want to will leave anyway. So I don't know. I mean, everybody seems to rate it however it is, but I don't know how much they can really stop people from recruiting LA. I mean, Oklahoma recruits LA. Everybody recruits LA.
Yeah. The question's about Oregon and Washington joining just the Big Ten, right?
The question was, do you feel like USC spoke when they were talking to the Big Ten about joining, that they would rather them not include Oregon and Washington? It's just a question.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're the only ones that know, are the people that were in that conversation, because nobody on Twitter knows that. I've seen everybody have an opinion on whether USC or UCLA wants them in. Like, I'm sure if I search right now, I could find somebody saying UCLA and USC are blocking Oregon and Washington from coming in. And I'm sure if I searched even harder, I could find somebody say USC and UCLA. It's just a matter of Notre Dame's decision, and that's what Washington and Oregon are going to do. You can find any number of scenarios. Do I believe that those two LA schools could block them from coming in? Absolutely, yeah. I mean, why have them come in? I mean, there's the Paul example of the recruiting in California that Oregon's basically been living off of. But I don't think that stops that necessarily just because you're in different conferences. There is, the whole let's stay closer to home thing. If all of a sudden the LA schools, are in the Big Ten and they're playing across the country, maybe that's not as great as playing in a conference where you can go a little bit shorter down the road to Stanford and Cal or wherever. Maybe that factors for some people. Maybe it doesn't matter where it is because it's NIL and they're just going to go wherever. But, yeah, if I'm the LA schools and I've got this upper hand, why am I going to go and just give that upper hand to the two schools who I'm competing with the most, or two of the schools that I'm competing with the most? So if I'm the LA schools, barring just it makes travel easier during conference play, why would you want Oregon and Washington?
Well, Tony made the comment, and Tony kind of is entrenched out in the Pac-12, as we know. If the money's right, it doesn't matter.
Sure, yeah, of course. I mean, that's the answer to everything. So, if you want to throw any question out there, well, what's the money situation? That's the answer to it mostly.
Again, look, Texas would not be, if it was about what the other teams wanted, I'm sure it wouldn't even just be A&M, Missouri, and Arkansas that didn't want Texas in. There'd be some others that didn't want them in, but again, it's about the money, and that's what overrode it, and that's why ultimately everybody voted for it, because it was about the money.
Yeah, I think that there could be some truth to them blocking those schools to some extent, but I also think bigger picture, it seems like it would make a ton of sense to want them in as well, no matter what it does to Southern California recruiting, because you do have schools that are closer to home to play, so long as it doesn't affect the amount of money that you're making and doesn't bring the total value down. That's the question that I don't know, is I see all these valuations and everything that's thrown out there, but how much does Washington and Oregon add to the Big Ten pie? They don't add what the LA schools add. We know that. So we know that all of a sudden everybody in the Big Ten's making more money because USC and UCLA have joined. Now, if two more join, Oregon and Washington, how much more is being made? Or are they suddenly making $2 million less per? Because that's the key. What are they adding value-wise? And I see that they're valued, and I see that when people throw out these scenarios, they're the fourth most valued or the sixth, but I don't really know because I don't know what to believe anymore reading off social media because, like I said, every scenario is out there and everybody's got a source. But, if they add value, then I believe that the LA schools would welcome that. If they don't, I think they'd shun it and not give them that advantage, but I don't think any of us really know that besides those schools. So that's where the problem is we don't really know. We don't know.
413, it's 8:01.